Let's welcome in our guest on the program. He is Delegate Michael Hornby, also owner of this establishment. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. Love spam.
Yes,
I'm into the spam.
Big spam show today.
Yep.
Yeah. Back when it used to mean food and not crap in your email and text that you didn't want to get.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We used to eat it every Sunday growing up.
Actually, Sunday dinner was spam?
You fry it up with
Sunday,
eggs or something?
Sunday breakfast, actually. We'd have it with eggs.
Yeah.
All right, I can see that combo. Did you eat the jelly on the top?
I love the fat on the top. Yeah, the jelly is the congealed fat, and once you cook that, it makes the spam even better.
Oh, yeah.
My wife still makes me spam and eggs once a month.
Now, do you do it as a slab or do you dice it up?
She actually does it in slices and then puts it in the frying pan, heats it up, just like you would bacon. It's fantastic.
My roommate, Guy, it was 4 guys living in this house. We rented in Fairfax. He would have it with orange pop. Spam and orange soda.
That's like orange juice, right?
Well, it's carbonated. You know, it's like orange soda.
Your
orange soda, Fanta orange.
Yeah, Fanta orange.
Soda. You said pop. Your Pittsburgh roots
That's a Pittsburgh term.
Yeah.
Yep, pop.
We said pop where I grew up.
Some people say pop. I've converted to soda since I've moved.
I'm staying with pop, and I make my daughter say buggy when I go to the grocery store.
Buggy, yeah, we used to call them buggies.
I'll go get the buggy.
Now it's a cart.
Nope, it's a buggy.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh it was a buggy. Michael, let's talk about legislation.
Sure.
First and foremost, let's go back to where we kind of visited last week, and I want to talk about harm reduction programs and also the bill that has to do with tobacco and vaping and such. And let's start there first, because health officials in this community are concerned about that bill and what it might possibly do, which is a concern that it could revoke public smoking ordinances in Berkeley County. In other words, you go back into the restaurant right now, in a restaurant, you don't get to smoke. If we go back to 10 years ago and repeal those ordinances, you would get to smoke in a restaurant once again. What's up with that bill?
Furthest from the truth that the intent of this bill has, and we will ensure that does not happen, and we will lay it out in this. The intent of that bill is actually,
Mike, what's the bill called first and foremost?
Let me pull it up. It is bill number 3199. Relating to restrictions on tobacco usage.
Okay.
So what that bill actually is intended to do is to stop these vape companies from doing candy cane vape, or the intent is to allow communities to ban flavored vapes that are intended to entice our youngsters to vape. Mm-hmm. So that is the actual intent of that legislation. And I understand the introduced version does have some language in there that says something about, you can't do this. But the intent is to actually help counties say, we do not want our vape companies or our in our community, we do not want a flavored vape from enticing youngsters. And that's the intent of that legislation. I understand it doesn't seem to be moving anywhere at this point, but I will definitely ensure that it actually states that this does not prevent counties from having or affecting their indoor smoking. And we will. I understand that I had both Bill Kearns and Doc McLaughlin call me, and I have both assured both of them that is certainly not the intent of this legislation, and we will make sure there are guardrails in there to make sure that they are still allowed to do what they're doing. So I just want to clear that up.
The concern is over 16-9A-12B in this law. This bill that says any local law, rule, or other regulation of tobacco products or electronic smoking devices as described in subsection A of this section, enacted prior to or after the effective date of this section, by any political subdivision of the state is void and unenforceable, meaning that Berkeley County's smoking ban would be voided and unenforceable if this law went into effect. That's the concern.
No, and that's there is a proviso. The forward-facing bill that you can see is not the committee substitute or the strike and insert that we can see on our end. Again, it hasn't made an agenda, but the actual writing of that has been updated to ensure that that is not the case. And I want to, let the public know and let you know that we are definitely not trying to repeal any kind of law that the Berkeley County or any county has.
And I like the overall theme of the bill, which is that we can't have our children sucked into vaping and smoking because the flavors are nice and cherry, fruitful fun. We're enticing them to do something that might not be in their best interests. I applaud the overall theme of the bill, but that last sentence caused quite an uproar locally.
And again, when you send an idea down to bill writing, they bring it back. There are consequences when you do that, and we certainly didn't intend for that to be a consequence of this bill. So we will address that if it makes an agenda.
2378, House Bill 2378. I think this is the harm reduction, questioning of the harm reduction methods that are being used around the state in some places. Mike, what do you know about this? Yeah,
that's Gino's bill. The committee substitute is actually addressed saying you have a program has to work with the county in order to be qualified. There are some bad actors around the state that are handing out needles willy-nilly, and the intent of that legislation is to ensure that it's a one-for-one needle exchange, and you are working with the county health department. And so I feel comfortable about that one. I think that doesn't affect Berkeley at all because we have a really good program. But there are some exchange programs that are privately run that may not be doing what's best for the state.
Is there a companion bill on the Senate side from Senator Tarr dealing with this as well, Mike, or is this basically that bill?
I have. The Senate runs what they run. I don't pay attention to anything unless it's actually moving. Things that come across from the Senate is kind of where I come in. But we have, a couple of thousand pieces of legislation sitting on our side and a couple of hundred on their side. I really only pay attention to stuff that has passed the Senate and that we will be addressing.
So basically that bill is that local health department has to be in charge of any needle exchange programs.
Yeah, well, not in charge because there are some counties that don't have a county program. There might be a private company or a nonprofit that's doing it, but they have to work in conjunction with. They have to be connected to the county health department, which we think is the right idea.
Can I ask a question about that one? The legislature gave the county commission oversight over health departments and their policies that they make. So wouldn't this ultimately make that sort of needle exchange program, put that in the purview of the county commissions?
Well, I don't think that's quite how it works, Matt. I think it's the health department is independent of the commission, but the commission does oversee it. So in the end, you may be right. I guess the commission still has a say over it.
Yeah, I thought there was legislation passed that after COVID that allowed the commission to knock down their policies.
I think the commission has the last say or oversight on certain things is what happened after COVID or during COVID.
John Gilstrap.
Good morning, Mike. I want to talk about 2382, another one of Gino Chiarelli's bills. This is the camping ban on certain public property, which squeaked through the House with a vote of 91-9.
Party lines. And
has moved on to the Senate. The ban on camping on certain public property, that's actually, it's really about homeless encampments, right?
Yep. I mean, let's be honest. That's what it's about.
Okay. So, given the pressures on social services in West Virginia right now, what's the next step? What happens to the people who are living in homeless encampments? What do we envision? I know you don't have the answer, but what do we envision happens to the people in homeless encampments?
Yeah, I don't have the answer, but the intent of that legislation is to ensure that we can move them on. There are bad actors that don't want help and feel that they can camp and do drugs and have prostitutes and do whatever they want, and they'll just put up a tent in front of your business. And it's really, this is a Morgantown issue, I think, is where this came from. There are some issues in some other cities. I don't think Martinsburg's really affected by it. However, it is a blight on people's businesses, people's livelihood, people living in municipalities. And unfortunately, we have to have a bill that says, here's the homeless shelter. The first offense is, hey, we refer you to a shelter. We refer you to the right people. The second offense is a fine. And the third is, jail time. It's one of those things that municipalities will choose to enforce. What can we do with them? I don't know. I don't have the big picture thing, but they certainly cannot camp on public property. If there's people that, a lot of people emailed me about that saying, we're being mean to homeless people. And I'm like, you're more than welcome to take them in to your house or to your property and let them camp in your backyard if you like.
Well, I know we had, when Nate Harmon was sheriff, he was on the show, and we talked about the homeless encampments that are here in Berkeley County. And not only are do we have problems with drugs, there's also human trafficking issues that are there, and there's violence. There's a lot of bad things that are going on in these homeless encampments. And when I asked him, so what are you doing? And he said pretty much looking the other way because there's no second step. What do we do? Send them to jail? Just not trying to put you on the spot here. I'm just kind of wondering what that second step would be. I presume it's expected to sail through the Senate as well?
I would hope so. I don't see any issues with that bill.
Well, can I follow up with it wasn't. I'm sorry, it wasn't quite party line vote. There was one Republican that voted against it, and it was Delegate Wayne Clark. And the reasons why that he cited for his vote against it was because this would ultimately ban camping in along the Hatfield-McCoy Trail if you're an ATVer.
And that's just I've talked to Wayne, and Wayne's just completely wrong. If you're a
well, I think he might be, but it was worth discussing because that's I was concerned about that too when I read that. Like, is this going to?
But here's the thing, Matt. A municipality can say we allow camping in our municipality. They can say, hey, you're allowed to camp here. There are exceptions to this rule where you can camp in camp places. So if the counties down in Hatfield-McCoy trails wanted to say, hey, we're going to allow camping on the side of the trails there, they're allowed to do that. And as soon as they do that, then it's legal. This is only in places where camping is illegal.
Let's get to some of Mr. Harvey's negligent homicide bills. What kind of
progress?
Thank you. Progress are we making?
I speak, Rob.
With Bill not here, I'm filling in.
Yeah, I think.
It passed.
That bill is good. It's passed. It's over at the Senate, I believe. We have no problem. We passed another one of Matt's bills yesterday in the House.
Which one?
Which was the residency for bail. That one sailed through. I think we got 100-0 on that one. I think Harvey's had a good year.
I have. Well, the negligent homicide, I didn't mean to laugh, but my gosh, that's been such an issue, a passionate issue for me because I gave my word to these families, and it has passed the Senate the last 2 years. So now for me to see it pass the House first, knowing that it's enjoyed broad support in the Senate is very encouraging. And I know a lot of families here in the Eastern Panhandle and across the state, quite frankly, have their eyes on that, and they're very appreciative.
And I think Matt, the encouraging thing is it's passed so early. We're only on day 30, so we're halfway through session. So you can put a feather in your cap on that one.
Well, I owe it to a lot of good people in the House and the Senate that are supporting it.
Yep.
All right, Mike, what else are you working on of note?
So actually today, big bill coming up. It'll probably make headlines, and the Democrats will probably hate me for it. But is the campaign finance allowing corporations to donate to campaigns is on the floor today. So I think that'll be probably the most contentious one for today.
Isn't that already legal?
It is not. Corporations and member organizations cannot donate to campaigns. If they choose to, they have to go through the dark money PAC route. And my thought behind that was if you want to donate to a campaign, you should be able to put your name on that campaign, and I should be able to say, hey, Joe's Barbershop supports me, and this is why. And all the reporting is the same, so it's actually, in my mind, more legitimate and opens it up and makes it more transparent as to where the money is going.
Currently, you'd have to do it through a PAC. You couldn't do it directly to the candidate. I see.
And
yes.
Other states allow unlimited donations to campaigns and from businesses or individuals.
My intent on this bill was to limit it to $250 because I didn't want it to be this. It's not about making money. It was more about a statement that, you know, if WRNR donates to X, well, not that we would, but if we donated to a candidate, we are on the record to say that we're donated to a candidate. But unfortunately, we're not allowed to limit the amount, so it had to be limited to what the guidelines were for the state. So it's $2,800 is the max.
Senators are voting for a partisan election of judges, reversing legislation from a decade ago. That's the headline on WV Metro News. Here today, talked to Senator Tom Willis about this when he made an appearance before the legislative session began. I disagree with making these elections partisan. Mike, what's the mood in the House over these issues? I would assume this is Board of Education, judges, all the things that are nonpartisan now.
I don't think it includes Board of Education because I think in the Constitution they cannot be. So that would have to be a constitutional amendment. Okay. But I do think they're doing judges. If you're asking me the mood of the House, I think that would pass this body pretty easily.
Are you in favor of it as well?
Sure. And again, I've got to take Rule 49 here. I am a radio station owner, which would mean that there would be a primary and a general election. So obviously, I would take Rule 49 and say, hey, this would benefit me directly. So we would have another election, which would mean more advertising for WRNR.
So when you say
what is Rule 49?
Yeah, I was going to ask. Is that when you ask to recuse yourself, and then
yes,
and then the speaker determines whether that's valid or not?
The speaker would determine whether you're a class of more than 5. So if you are less than 5 people affected within the state by this, then you are not. You should be recused from voting. Very few instances that happens, but at the same time, I would ask for Rule 49 because it does directly benefit something I'm doing.
Well, then, in this case, I will ask the guest to sit quietly whilst the hosts discuss this. I think this is a silly idea. I think it undercuts every decision that's made by a judge in the future. It's going to be a Republican judge said this or Democrat judge said that, and all that does is it makes justice seem less just,
more partisan,
moving forward. I think it's a bad idea.
And Rob, I mean, you and I have talked about this many times. We've had forums with judges. They can't really speak on anything they've done in the past. They can't speak on anything they've done in the future. So I think it's more of a nothing burger for me. because it's not going to change how they campaign or why they campaign. It's just going to put a R or a D next to their name. And quite honestly, it's going to be in West Virginia. It's going to be a bunch of R's. I don't, why would somebody put a D beside their name in this environment? Right. So I kind of agree. It's kind of silly in my mind.
Hey, we are over 250 confirmed measles cases in the country now. When this outbreak in Texas started, I think it started out at like 35 or 45. Is that affecting any of the legislation in Charleston right now when there was an initial idea to relax the vaccination requirements?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the governor's priority bills he's already done the executive order, but it is definitely affecting how, this bill probably would have sailed through last year, and it did kind of pass last year, but we don't know where we are. I think we've actually become more moderate in the Republican caucus, and I'm not sure where we are. We're too close to call at this point. So the last thing we want to do is run a bill and have it fail. So we're kind of sitting on the fence trying to find out where our members are at this point.
Yeah, if you guys pass this, I think some of the more moderate folks in the state are going to say that you guys are tone deaf to the room with what's going on in some of the states in this country.
Yeah, and I've been blatantly honest with you guys. You know where I stand on this. I might be in the minority, or I might have been in the minority last year, but I stand firmly. I am not for any version of relaxing standards, and I'm going to stand to my guns. And if that affects my re-election, that it is what it is, and I'll be happy to do that.
Minute left. It's yours, Mike. What else do you need to say?
We are working. We did introduce two giant bills in education yesterday. They are putting education and the Department of Education and the superintendent under rulemaking review. Those are two huge bills, and if I can get those to the finish line, that will be the greatest accomplishment I have done in my time here.
Good to talk with you. Good segment.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.